Good morning and welcome to the Morning Connection, coming to you live from our brand new spot in the gardens of the Ligony Club in Kingston, Jamaica. This is not the Best 100 FM studios that we were in yesterday, but we are still your favorite show on Best 100 FM. This is the Morning Connection. Your host, Minette Lawrence, waiting on Pastor Percival to arrive, watching the door, but very happy to say welcome to those who have greeted us on air, those who have joined us online. I always appreciate my UK greetings, so I start with saying a big shout out to Mr. Delroy Henry in the United Kingdom. And of course, a big shout out to all those who are listening to us on radio. This is not one of the days when we get to chat with you. This is our free flowing Thursday, where we get to wrap up on the various issues and just put our additional thoughts into the mix as we go off on the weekend. Good morning to Lloyd back in the studio at home, and of course, Mr. Engineer and producer here at Best 100 FM with me. Wow, it's been one of those weeks that you hope you never have to relive in terms of the things that we've been seeing and dealing with. But it's a week for which I am most grateful because 12 months of 2022, Pastor Percival and myself spoke relentlessly, audaciously, boldly, insistently, I could go on, about the things that need to change in the heart, in the minds, and in the governance structure of our own beautiful Jamaica. And we're seeing some things fall out. I can tell you last night, as the FSC, their press conference was being reported on. Good morning, Catherine. Of course, you know, as I see Catherine, I got to say a big thank you to JD's Urban Pub at the Ligony Club because they host us on Thursday mornings and they do a very good job taking care of us. They'll take care of you too if you drop in for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. But more about that later because we do love our sponsors here and we like to give them some love as often as we can. But if you were watching any of the news reports last night, you'd have seen the Financial Services Commission speaking on the matters pertaining to what's happening with one institution in the financial sector. And they went on to say that the financial services industry in Jamaica has a value equal to, I think they said, 85% of Jamaica's GDP. Trillions. So you know that when that sector is in upheaval, it will have far-reaching impact. But we declare that it will be a very positive, far-reaching impact. And we're going to get to that as soon as we return from our first break. It is 6:30 a.m. Please keep your radio, your device, however you are connecting with us, just keep it locked. We're going to be right back. Good morning and welcome back. I tell you, when you are in the Ligony Club community, if you stay long enough, you're bound to meet some friends. And we just had the great pleasure of catching up with one of our friends of many years and some distinction. I got to say a bright good morning to Carl James, the sugar man, I used to call him. I wish he could have taken time from his tennis to come sit and chat with me because on Free Flowing Thursday, anything can happen. But good morning to you, Mr. James. Just reminding us of some of the wars we'd been through as we sought to get this 100-and-odd-year-old institution back on its feet and in fighting fit shape. And um, the memory he woke up in me is causing me to say to you now that once you plant a seed, it may take long to grow and to give you that harvest. But if you plant, as sure as night follows day, there will be a harvest. And whether you plant good or bad seed, so please check your yes, producer says, so please check your seed and make sure that what you're putting into the ground is something that you'll be proud to reap when the day comes. Before we took the break, I was just making a quick comment on the FSC's disclosures on the occasion of their press conference last night, speaking to the issues that are underway. And listening to their executive director emphasizing the importance of the financial industry in this country. The truth is, most of us can imagine it, but when you put a number to it, it becomes a lot more meaningful. And he was going through the numbers and saying that the financial services industry represents 85% or thereabouts of Jamaica's GDP. So anything that touches it is going to touch you. And it's why even FinSAC, many are still mourning about FinSAC because in the days of FinSAC, the driving theory was that if you allowed the financial sector to go down, then the rest of the country would pay far more than we could afford. And so it was in the best interest of the citizens, of taxpayers, that their money be used to bring back some semblance of order to the financial sector. Of course, after FinSAC, everyone who has a memory of the trauma and the expense of it is saying not again. So when we see something that looks like it could destabilize the financial sector, we all get nervous, rightly so. But I still want to point out that those who are responsible for planning our affairs carry the duty of making the best possible choice for the commissioners in the case of the FSC. When you look at the board, and I invite everyone, go online, look at the board that is published as the brain center, the nerve center of the Financial Services Commission. I am not impressed. I just leave it at that. Look and see for yourself. Read the little biographies that they put there. And when you make these assessments, it's never about having the knowledge that they display, the education they may have acquired. You're looking for persons who have sufficient seniority, meaning number of years or depth of experience in a particular field. You're looking for those persons. And above all else, you're looking for persons with a demonstrated moral fiber, character, ability to take very tough decisions, even if those decisions move against the grain of current thinking or might have the impact of upsetting some of our own sacred cows in this nation. I think I've said enough on that score. You want to see persons who, if that one sees something going sideways, they will shut it down before it becomes the disaster that SSL has become for this nation. Now, bear in mind that we just came through hearing about what happened with Alliance. Alliance had been carrying on a rousing business lending in US dollars when they had no license to do so. And in their ability to carry out that kind of business depended entirely on the complicity of the commercial banks with whom they do business. Yet we are yet to hear of any commercial bank being taken to task in their dealings or on their dealings with Alliance. Now we have SSL, a 50-year-old institution, they are proud to say. They now are in the news. And although the fraud is what opened the door to their private business, the fraud is but a small part of it. They had been facilitated, encouraged, mollycoddled into this way of doing business by our very own regulator, who found that they too were carrying on a loan business without the necessary authorization. When we talk about maintaining regulatory framework that could ensure a level playing field, because the financial services industry is the field is quite populated. If you look in any of the newspapers on the days when they publish matters concerning business, you will see all of the licensed brokers and dealers and traders. And this is a sector that deals, let me be clear, it manufactures nothing, doesn't make money. It is an intermediary between those who have money to lend and support businesses and those who have business ideas that they want to implement. If you went in the bank and stayed in the bank all day and worked in the bank all day, at the end of the day, you still have to buy lunch, pay bus fare, and get to a place where you can be nourished and rested and taken care of. There's nothing in the bank that will sustain life. The work that you do cannot save a person's life or put anything in a person's hand. It's money, which is a medium of exchange. Yet, it is one of the most important and high value mediators in an economy. I make that point to say that the banks and the regulatory framework under which a financial sector operates must be in alignment with the developmental objectives of a country, with the needs of the people who want to be facilitated in establishing their businesses. It doesn't operate as a law unto itself. It is not way more important than those who need it or those whose money keep it going. Yet we see a certain amount of looseness. I'm calling it that. I think the FSC would disagree with me because I heard them saying how well regulated they are. But the fact that your business isn't on the street every day don't mean you're well regulated. It means you keep good, confidential, and secret books. Even in the face of fire, the FSC was maintaining that principles of confidentiality prevents them from giving Jamaicans, from giving stakeholders the truth about what transpired with FSC. But I do understand that at this time, when lawsuits are being talked about and everybody's rattling one cage or another, I do understand that the less said, the better it might be. This is where I need Pastor Percival because my voice is going. Take a sip of water and we're back. All right, so let's look a little bit at what's making the front page. The Jamaica Relief Ministries has denied any ties with Mr. Robansky of the Child Protection and Family Services Agency. When I read that headline, I said to myself, you know, there is great wisdom in persons just setting the platform for truth and justice to enter the stage and letting God do what he always does. Bring right standing, proper relationship, bring righteousness back into play. I saw yesterday that citizens were protesting, asking for Miss Gage Gray to be, for her to resign. And one of the things, you know, Percival and I were commenting on, we were kind of scouring the pages and just saying, how has it come about that persons are targeting this lady with the anger and the upset they feel? not taking careful note that the persons who complained about Mr. Robance's conduct are adults. They're not children. They're not wards of the state. They are former wards, true, but they are not children. Why are we overlooking the fact that the shameful behavior of Mr. Urbanski is a matter for urgent and immediate treatment in the right forum? Whatever disciplinary proceedings could flow against this lady, and at the end of the day, you may discover that there is none. Whatever may flow with regards to her, we should not be distracted from addressing what's really wrong in the system. Persons should note what the minister sought to do with her announcement last night, that she is preparing submissions to cabinet for the agency to be removed from the list of executive agencies under the direct supervision of the ministry and be given an independent board of directors. I don't know how it operates, that when you move something farther away from you, it gives you a better opportunity to ensure that it operates with integrity. That's just kind of, that's a new kind of logic. But what I see in it is the minister not wanting to be the person on whose desk the buck stops too quickly. If you look at it in terms of chain of command, she wants to be further removed from the agency in the line of fire. So she wants a board to be inserted between her office and the actions of the agency. I don't know that that is necessarily a good thing. Not at a time when, and not in so sensitive a matter, something that involves the welfare of children and the well-being of institutions that are a necessary part of the work of our central government. To me, it would seem a bit as if the Minister of Finance would try to say, let's make this ministry an independent agency instead of keeping it right here in the heart of central government. I don't think it's a good move. And I think the reason for her doing it is to insulate herself and maybe further ministers in the future from this kind of attack. Oh, I'm getting company.
Well, good morning to our listeners. I cannot help but chime in right here because it seems to point to the same thing, where persons respond based on what we see or hear in the media. Mm-hmm. And that's unfortunate because, yes, you rely on the media, but at the same time, before you start to criticize in the way that you have been, it is usually best to try to get to the full picture. And this speaks to how we report things.
Yes.
It speaks to how we report things. Because oftentimes the media is very biased in how they report things. They report it in such a way so that they can get the kind of attention that they need. They can get the coverage.
Well,
they can be the first one to break the story and so on and so forth. But what about truth? What about truth?
It's in the fine print.
I mean, and we need to start. We need to start to magnify the fine print, because I tell you, experience is the greatest teacher. And we have had some experiences, we have had our own experiences that speaks to how people were quick
is there any way for you
to pass judgment. There might be, but I'm going to have to do a little. Yeah.
Because while you're speaking,
I know,
the
yes.
camera is on me.
I'll put up another camera.
Even I thought I was frozen.
Yes, no, you're not frozen.
I was listening intently.
You're not frozen at
all. To be more
to be TV,
than
but yes. So
anyway, I do take your point. There has been, even with this SSL thing, we see the role of the media. The way stories are broken. Let me say that breaking news. The way the information comes to light has to have value in it for the media companies that report on it, because that is how eyes on you, eyes or ears attuned to what you're doing. That's what gives value and prominence to your own brand. So yes, media will find the most salacious or earth-shattering element in a story to report on it. And you.
But there lies a tragedy because what does the man out in the street do? Where does he get the truth? Where does he get,
He has to listen to the morning
picture?
connection.
Yeah, well, that is true. I should have thought of that before, but nonetheless, it's coming from the team.
He has to listen. He has to listen to places that distinguish themselves.
Those are serious questions. Because here it is, people are taking time out of out of their work life, whatever the case may be, to go and protest.
But did you notice that traumatized people, the people are traumatized? That young lady whose story, oh my God, even to read it, at 14 years old, she is being sexually assaulted by a policeman who not only abused her physically, but used words to demean and traumatize her. And she remains scarred. It didn't say what age she was. So the moment she heard that words of state or state people in state care, she did not pretend that she was out there because of Miss Gage Gray's misconduct. She was there because she was a ward of state, and she knew she was actually responding to the heart of the issue, which is that children were abused or young people were abused. See me doing it too.
Yes.
Young people were abused. She says, I'm here because this is what happened to me. And then the Gleaner gave the uncensored version account of what happened to her, and it turns your stomach to know that that would happen to an adult, much less a child. And Percy and I were wondering, where's that policeman today? Because even so, some action should be taken. There's no statute of limitation against it. She felt that here are the germane things from that lady's participation in the protest. She felt that she had no voice and no protection. She was in state care. This thing happened to her. She reported on it, and nothing was done. She's not really concerned about who's responsible for the nothing that was done. She just knew, and she feels, I would extrapolate from that she feels that children in state care are not well taken care of by the state. And that was from the time she was in their care. That's not something that you would lay at the feet of this lady who they're assassinating.
And this is a time when you come together to solve the problem.
And the minister's response to that problem is to seek to remove the agency farther away from ministerial care and give it a board of directors. And how effective are our boards of directors in this season? Almost every government agency that has made the news, there is a failing on the part of the board to capture certain things at the right time.
Right.
And I've sat on government boards. I know how much time it takes and how hard it is to shift things. The boldness that is required of you when in a room of 12 or so persons, all of whom sometimes know more than you do about the organization, the business of the organization, all of whom are better connected to political, because they're all political appointees. But sometimes, like when I was on the various boards, I was there as the post-independence child. I was like, they've quickly learned that I was not a token member of the board. But I was there to try and usher into the conversation people of a certain age. So you're born after 1962, you get a place on a board. And you have ability as a trained attorney at law, making some strides. I was an easy pick and an attractive pick. But I had to really muscle my courage and speak against the things that were, not, I was going to say not of God, but at the time, that were not in alignment with principles of proper governance.
And you see, so there are times when it is necessary to go against the grain.
Of course.
It is so interesting that Carl James stopped by this morning, because I remember when we were doing this club. And when we went against the grain and the kind of flack we took in the early stages, and we had to stick to our guns until we were able to get the things that the things done.
Not meaning to sound the trumpet of my erstwhile profession, but a lawyer can be the most influential person on a board. A lot of persons come into board membership with technical skills that can allow them to advise on or impact the actual operations of the entity. And a lot of them come at it based on what they're accustomed to doing. And some of those practices have never been tested in the courts. I always say that an attorney with litigation practice and experience is a most valuable addition to any board. Because if you are a good litigator, you look at problems through the eyes of the court. You say, what would happen if this went to court? And if you are learned in your subject matter, you can pull on the principles that judges use to resolve disputes. Yes. And you can actually advise against a course of conduct because you know if such conduct came up for scrutiny, the judges would rule against you. And when I'm gonna the FSC board. When I look at the FSC board and see that they have an attorney who was called to the bar in 2018, the highlights of her career seem to be what she did in law school, voluntary work, nobody paying you for that.
Yes.
Not tested.
That's unfortunate.
By any eyes of great significance. I make bold to say as much because I've been to law school. I've volunteered and done different things in my student career. And immediately after leaving law school, unless you are in the criminal, you have a criminal practice and you're in the right place when a major case comes up, you are not likely to be given things of great importance in the first 2 to 3 years of your practice.
Yes.
I had the distinction of going to start up a law firm in a foreign country when I was 2.5, 3 years in practice. But I went under the supervision of senior lawyers. That was a responsibility given to me, not because I was a great lawyer. It was because I had demonstrated some other abilities that meant I could be trusted running a business in a foreign country. But it wasn't because of my lawyering. I was still only 2.5 to 3 years in practice. Yet you have somebody of that vintage as the only lawyer, from what I read on their website.
So you wonder, is it that
what guidance would she have given to the board of directors when the matters of SSL came up? How would she advise them on the possible liability that the FSC itself would have when this day arrives? Because you see an institution ailing along and you're describing them as non-compliant and a problem child. Problem children become convicts and incarcerated persons. Most times, that is the law of averages working on that score. They don't become princes and pastors. It requires a kind of intervention that doesn't frequently happen in business. Yet, that is the nature of the legal, I would say, contribution to the commissioners. That bothered me, quite honestly.
And rightly so, because that is a job that needs experience. Experience.
Yes.
And not just in law, but also on the financial side of things.
Right.
You know?
That's, so, you make a very important point. Because unless you yourself have some concept of what it is to be involved in a business of a certain magnitude, you will have difficulties in forming the right perspectives and opinions on those matters. In fact, you might be overwhelmed. You might be thinking that if there's so much money at play, you can't treat with it in a certain way.
Yes.
Not recognizing that whether it is $1 million or $1 billion, the principle is the same.
It's the same.
SSL should have been shut down, taken care of years ago. But today we have the responsibility of dealing with the fallout, and especially because so many persons, and in particular Mr. Bolt, have been hurt by what has transpired.
Yes. All right, let's take our break.
It's time for our 7 o'clock break.
Yes.
All right, I think I need to find out what has happened to Pastor Percival. Morning, I need to say morning to Ras Kremlin and just know that he's in our prayers. Welcome back. And yes, he's here. So those who like to hear Pastor give a nice little 3-minute sermon, your time.
I don't know if it's a sermon, but
3 minutes.
It's kind of good to be alive.
Kind of good.
Yeah, it's kind of good to be alive. It's good to be alive. But you heard me saying in a lot of ways. And last night we had our prayer meeting, and people were praying against what's happening. But remember, yesterday when I prayed, I said, we're gonna see a lot of resignations and people coming to a point. And it was echoed again last night by somebody who said, we're gonna begin to see some shift in terms of what is happening. But I still believe and still declare that God is bringing in this nation a lot of things to closure. Is saying, all right, no, it is my time.
This is time come.
Yes, this is time come. Whatever people, this is my time. Because a lot of things been happening, and people were literally looking at us and saying, where is your God? But one of the things I have learned in terms of how God does his thing, he has to bring a lot of things in alignment. And when the things come in alignment, he closes that chapter. He sheds his light, and we've seen a lot of exposure. Because the truth is, I didn't know that SSL was 50 years old.
Yes.
50 years old. And to be 50 years and behaving like in this manner without any real controls, because even some of the things that have been revealed in the Gleaner and what people are saying now, I'm going, I look like somebody who just started up business. It's coming like the guy Brecken Fred with his cryptocurrency.
What did you call him?
Brecken Fred. I think a back-end friend. Fried.
It's all right. Oh, no.
Back-end fried. Yes. And what he was doing. And one of the things that has emerged out of what has come to the light, even with him, there are a lot of associated parties that he was giving stuff to and giving monies to further their causes. And in turn, they were not shedding the spotlight on the real happenings. And I'm wondering if we're beginning to see that. You made a comment yesterday, and I'm going, why would people do that to other people? And we conclude, in a lot of ways, it's a matter of the heart, because out of the heart comes a lot, all the issues of your life. And if you believe in your heart that, no, I'm too big, or because I know this person, the rules don't apply.
Because, when you emphasize that they're 50 years old, the realization that struck me is that they came into being at a time when they were associated with the most powerful in this country. And I would say the regulatory framework that we have now was not present. And they were, in fact, I think they would have just made their own rules.
Yes.
So you end up, institutions have memory,
It's the like people, memories don't leave like people do 40s.
Yes.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter that personalities come and go, and some, in fact, even die. The culture,
the DNA in the organization.
And it's always why, even in our line of business, when we talk about the renewed man is not carrying forward the DNA of the old man. The renewed man has put to death his own self-culture way of doing things, and has been transformed by the taking on of the character of Christ.
Amen.
Whose DNA is godly and kingly and divine and has
of integrity.
Absolutely, and has self-resurrecting capabilities, which is why you will see a righteous man will fall and rise again, because you can resurrect yourself. You have the right DNA. SSL coming to life at a time when its DNA was one of self-regulation. It's why you would have them not being compliant, not being able to give proper statements, not filing records in time because they never had to.
And it's in the DNA in there.
That's the DNA.
That's the DNA.
And even though you change, reinvent yourself with different name and different staff and so on and so forth, mind you, that lady whose famous confession is going to be picked apart in days to come, she was there for 25 years. So she's very much a part of the
25 years?
25 years. She's been there half of their lifetime.
Oh my
So
Lord.
she's part of the institutionalized memory where you see, you know, you might hear a narrative being given as to why I did it. But to even think of doing it comes from a place.
A heart condition.
It also comes from a place of knowledge.
Yeah, because she said, oh, everybody do it so.
Listen to me.
Oh,
you know so. To even think of it.
Yeah.
Comes from a place.
No, that is, you're right about it. Even think about it. Because you know, you see some things in life and you say, me now go down there.
You wouldn't even think of it.
You see, the word of God says, flee the very appearance of evil.
Job said, I make a covenant with my eyes.
Yes.
Now look at no young girl. Lest I be tempted.
He my car never make a covenant with him.
Robansky.
He never made a covenant.
Never made a covenant with his eyes. Why you think Job made a covenant with his eyes? He knew his own weaknesses.
Oh. And I have a simple principle that I have adopted.
You make a covenant too?
How you mean?
Really? You know your own weaknesses?
No, it's a bigger thing. When you see something and it looks like evil and you don't know where it's going, me say, all right, we stay there, so me go the other direction. Flee.
The very appearance.
Not evil, you know. The very appearance of evil.
And let's be clear. When we say evil, we're not talking about demon with horns.
No.
It's just not of God.
Yeah, if
it's not of God, it's
can't
evil.
Stand up to the light.
It could be a small thing like eating too much cake or having that third glass of wine.
Yes. Yeah, it's not doing things in moderation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know sometimes, like even when the minister said it was what? Evil fraud.
Yes.
And, you know, he may think that he has elevated it to some high degree of fraud. I don't even know if there's degrees of fraud.
It's fraud.
It's fraud.
It's just fraud.
Because it begins in the heart. If you look at something and you think in a wrong way about it,
let it go. Make it go on.
Make a covenant. Anyway, you drew me in with that one.
No,
I don't know what
but the other thing that you pointed out with what the Minister of Education and Youth is seeking to do.
Oh, you were listening?
Of course, I have to listen. All
right, finish the conversation. Because I missed your input.
Said, me have to talk. Me have to talk. Can't hold it, me have to talk. It is just shifting responsibility.
Yeah, man, she tried to put a buffer between her and the issue. So, and then I remember when she took over the technology portfolio after Mr. Wheatley had massacred us, and she came in. Pull up your mic, Lowell. And she came in. It was so easy for her to just deny. Oh, I don't know. Let me tell you, if the government want to just kill your issues, change the minister.
Let's change the minister. But we are the cabinet shuffle is in place because remember, we're coming up to when we have a municipal election that is due by the end of February. So, and with all of these things that are happening.
Oh dear, don't we need 21 days notice?
Yeah, but they can do it, can't they?
Shuffle is the same deck of cards.
Yeah.
Same deck of cards.
They said they've been alluding to the shuffle. Man. Let's see how they're going to shuffle this.
Come on.
Shuffle up the deck.
Shuffle what? They shuffle them all off the board.
Queen Patra said shuffle up the deck.
So then, can we then say that there are no shufflers?
They're shufflers. Only one shuffler, because it's not everybody shuffle the deck.
The person who shuffles the deck is a shuffler.
It's only one shuffler.
Yeah, but for her to do that.
Yeah.
And again, you pointed to the fact that we have read it and it says, okay, I've seen a lot of people coming out and speaking a lot of things. One, let me say this categorically. I in no way condone the behavior or activities of Carl Robansky.
This is the Jamaica Relief.
Yes.
Jamaica Relief
No, I'm
Ministries.
saying this as a pastor.
Oh, you too. All right. This is exactly what the member of the Jamaica Relief Ministry
I'm not
said.
I'm not gonna deny the thing.
Yeah.
The man you have to deal with the gentleman, because that means we have to cut all ties with everybody.
With everybody.
Because we are, as pastors, in the ministry of reconciliation and redemption. So if a man has truly repented, I can't use his past
to condemn him.
Because look at Zacchaeus.
No, that would be evil, and that's not of God.
Right. So some people, because it's out there in the public domain, we go, leave him alone. It happened in church a lot of times. This young lady gets pregnant, we put her up on the bank bench, and that means she done for life. She can't come back.
What about the man who got her pregnant?
All that too?
Is he on the back bench?
No, most time you don't even know.
Most time he's on the pulpit?
I don't know. Don't pull me out, draw me out on that one.
It's free flowing Thursday. When do I get to draw you out?
Know what I'm saying?
Hey.
No, but don't miss this, people.
Yes.
We in no way condone people taking advantage of the power that they have to disadvantage people. And not only it happens with women, not at the time, but I've seen it in the reverse in terms of what has happened in poor relationship, that women disadvantage men. In most cases, the man disadvantage the woman. But we are saying it is wrong either way. It is like...
We accept that. I feel you're going somewhere with it. So I'd like you to go there.
It is like...
Because we know it's wrong.
Yeah. It's like in counseling relationships. So now, somebody comes and says, and this is a natural thing. So, person comes in and says, oh, I want to talk to you. My wife having problems. So they come in and we talk. And I say, what is the problem? He admits in Jamaica that he giving wife born. And she in turn give him born. But he wanted me to tell him wife that she shouldn't give him born.
And Pastor, you need to tell her that is wrong.
Yes, but they both are wrong. So let us put it out on the table. You can't do that. It is not.
So why did he think she is more wrong than he is?
I don't know. I'm trying to understand it. I couldn't understand his logic.
Is he still in therapy?
No, he pull himself away. Because when me look
I
at
never
him,
like what you were telling him.
When I look at him, I say, but really, no? You really...
Wrong. You wrong first.
Yeah. And she responds.
Yeah. And your remedy is to tell her that she more wrong.
Yes. And I'm saying no. We need to come to a place as persons of faith. And those persons out there, wrong is wrong. That is why we cannot continue to say in a lot of circumstances, it is relative. That there is right and wrong in terms of how we deal with each other and in terms of our behavior. So at the different levels as we go through it, it's just plain wrong. And then now, we're crucifying this lady because the bottom line, the way I see it means, is just bad press. And we're not seeking to get to deal. Look at it, all right, this has happened.
But I ask myself, what sets the press in motion? Because let's say a story is put to a journalist. The journalist will look at it and say, what element of this story should become the headline? Because eyes get drawn to your story based on what's in large print. In making that judgment, the press is feeding off, the journalist is feeding off what they know to be the appetite of the reading public. Now, if the public has an appetite for punishing, whomever,
going somewhere. Yeah. Going somewhere with that.
If the public has an appetite for inflicting punishment, then it's gonna zero in on who they think is the best subject for punishment. Usually they're not going to fix their attention on the person giving them the story. because they want the story.
Yeah.
And they want to have a continued relationship and access to the person who gives the story.
Yeah, but
So-
you and my erstwhile producer
Yes.
zoomed in on the fact that why the press they drive the narrative.
They set the narrative by the headline.
But they they're not about, in a lot of instances, about what is the real fact, what is the real truth there.
No, because the truth and what appeals to the truth and what sells papers don't often coincide. But that's the press. And I mean, while I know media plays a great role in driving, yes, there's an even bigger estate that has emerged. Social media is a bigger estate.
We call it the fifth estate.
The fifth
Remember
estate.
when
Yes, early in the day we
program.
looked at it. When the narrative is set by the main narrator, it's hard to shift the focus more than to say, okay, what element of this story should I use for my headline? The OCA did a hatchet job on the CPFSA. The OCA could have looked at it as, could have conducted their investigation on the basis of looking at the institution and the systems that allow one or another type of misdeed to occur. The OCA chose to focus her investigation. It is stated in the report that she was investigating the conduct of the CEO and her management of the administration. So it began in a personal way and it ended in a personal way. And because Jamaica love, you see, we don't have, we're not carrying out capital punishment anyway. So we love a proxy hanging. If we can narrow things down to an individual, a person, whose blood, whose pain, whose shame we can parade out there, that's what works for us. And you know that is evil, because you spoke earlier. God is a God of redemption. And who among you haven't experienced it?
It's like Jesus, when they brought the woman to him, caught in
Absolutely.
adultery.
Yes.
And he
wasn't looking at the fact that she did something wrong. He was saying, okay, we are operating a system. We are a society. A part of our legal framework is that the society is involved in punishing wrongdoing, because wrongdoing harms the entire society. Now, if this woman's wrongdoing is to be punished, which of you never harmed society that you could now, with clear heart and good conscience, punish her? He wasn't looking on her misdeed. He was focusing on the bigger picture, because everybody's soul is at risk. When you unjustly punish somebody, you put yourself at risk. And so he was stepping above the issue and showing that love which we are called to display, but which we can't unless we engage with him. So Miss OCA knows that something is wrong in that part of the business. Yes. She's not looking to fix the problem. She's looking to pluck out the person who she's looking to punish the person she believes is guilty. And when all of us are focusing on her, the institutionalized issues, the problems continue unchecked. But when that young girl at the protest said
that, remember when it was 14, I went to the police station because I was misbehaving myself.
Yeah.
In state care. They told me the police station, and what happened, this is my reading of it.
Policeman abused her further.
Yes.
And she reported
it to people in the CDA.
And they did nothing.
Yeah.
That's a problem that's been in there
for a very long time.
For a very long time. If you take on Miss Gage Gray and plop in Pastor Percival, and he doesn't do the work of fixing those problems with the support of the rest of the government apparatus, it will remain the same. And Miss Gage Gray will probably get a nice pension and some severance money, because if she file her lawsuit and succeed, she'll do very well. But the problem would be unchecked. And that's not what we want.
And I remember the report that I read in terms of which this present CEO initiated in turn. Let's look at what's happening in state care, in the ones we have and the place of safety. And the key recommendation was, and I don't think we have addressed that, move it from basic care to Given the
holistic,
psychosocial interventions, everything that the young people need in terms of what it is. You mean the OCA lady? Okay.
Oh, are you two having a sidebar in the middle of four?
Yeah, you know, but that is the deeper issues, and the question is, are we going to put resources that are needed into the Child Protection and Family Services Agency to fix the problem?
The bigger problem, the real problem.
The real problems that
Yeah,
are
you
there.
move Miss Gage Gray, that's just one individual who might retire bitter and fight a big lawsuit and the taxpayers pay for it, and then that's no more. But the problem which was highlighted by that young lady
who said, this is what happened to
this
me.
is what happened
know
to
there are
me
abuses in the system.
But
Yes.
the checks and balances and the standard of care that would minimize the impact going forward is what we want to focus on. Well, similarly, so when you talk about how the media fix their headline, you think the media don't know that that's what we like?
No,
We like see Minute Palmer face on the front page and something about her conduct. We want to see caught. We want to see something smutty and nasty about people. That's what we want to see, and that is a statement about it.
That's a reflection on us.
Yeah, we feel now. Why do we want to see that? Because some of us are appalled by it and going to prayer and fasting, and another set of people feel better about themselves because they see worse out there.
No, you know that's interesting as you talk about that.
I say lots of interesting things.
Yes, but that part in which we are saying, and it happens to us as believers, you know, we have a big discussion in another quarter about why is it that as believers and Christians we're not making real impact. And this is my summary of it. In James it says, be not only hearers of the word, but doers of the word. Because I tell you, when you interact with the word of God, a simple thing like love your neighbor as yourself. And in 1 Corinthians 13, it says, 48, what love is. Love is patient, love is kind, love does not think evil, don't hold a grudge. So now we go into whether it is a Saturday or Sunday, and the pastor is preaching his heart out. Love your neighbor as yourself. But minute, I know me myself will love my neighbor as myself. Are you?
Yes.
Are you? I know me. You know,
always somebody else.
There's always somebody else. And so the challenge is, and we have to challenge people to take this thing serious in terms of discipleship. We have to, because a lot of people say, oh,
but
me good, me good.
Do you know?
Me not do that. I'm not doing that.
I'm going to catch you with your own logic, because even you, in saying it, you say we have to challenge people to take things seriously.
I have to challenge myself.
Discipleship, it begins with yourself.
I have to challenge myself.
I have to be.
But I'm just thinking as a leader.
Yeah. But it starts with you because people follow you. So if you are being the disciple that God calls us to be, the people who follow you are going to do the same thing.
And love and but them say no man, I pastor that.
Yeah.
That pastor could, you know what people somebody close to me say, when they see me acting certainly, them say, I really Christian for true.
Yeah.
They say, but I can't do anything else with what the word of God says, and I have to apply it in a real way, because that's when the real change begins to happen in your heart. Jesus says, if anybody follow back on me, you can take up your cross daily and follow me. Die to you and what you want, and allow for the word to work itself out in your life.
All of that, is to say we speak against insincerity and the lack of integrity between the things we say and the things we do.
Yeah.
We've had some conversations about CARICOM. I just saw a note that I had made, wanting to congratulate Antigua and Barbuda on leading the way by voting against the requirement of work permits allowing for the free movement of labor in the region. Now, Antigua and Barbuda
the election was yesterday. No?
Yeah, what is the result? I did not even check. You check the result. But both opposition and it's a position that they have taken across the bench.
Across the floor. That is Mr. Gladstone Brown, it said?
Yes.
And them said...
Both sides have agreed that free movement of labor, goods and services in the region includes taking away that requirement for a work permit. So, I'm sure whatever tolerance they have, whatever capacity they have for people to come. And they also, I think if they've done some change too with the...
First thing, just to report, the government retains, the Antigua Barbados Labour Party retains government by 1 seat. 1 seat. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Boy, you have a difficulty reading headlines. You couldn't be that journalist choosing the headline that's gonna grab attention. Jesus have mercy.
Okay, so he's won 9 out of 17 seats. So that was the
Barbuda People's Movement won 1 seat.
Yeah,
but that issue, the treatment of the treatment of work permits, that's something that both sides agreed on. So that's it moving forward. No work permit required for CARICOM nationals.
Have you ever been to Antigua?
Yes, I have.
A nice little place.
Yes, beautiful. And I did not go to Barbuda. Been to Antigua several times. I was supposed to go to Barbuda. When I was in the BVI, I wanted to experience all of the various festivals, and I went to Antigua more than once, but I never made it to Barbuda. I went to St. Kitts and I made it to Nevis, and maybe that's why I didn't try for Barbuda, because I traveled on a little...
and they have an independent candidate in their house.
2-seater prop plane.
Okay, that was interesting.
And that was way too interesting.
Okay,
to be repeated.
You go drop out of the sky.
Dear Jesus, you can't even talk because it's so loud.
Yes.
It's almost like being in a helicopter.
So Mr. Brown has retained, but just by 1 seat, because in there they have an independent.
So it's the independent that give him the 1 seat?
No, the independent look like he's not. He's independent.
Yeah, but they won 9 of 17.
Right.
And independent won 1. And the Barbudas People Movement won
1. So that account for the 8. So United Progressive won 6.
Yeah.
6 and 1, 7, and 1 more 8.
Yeah. All right. Beautiful. They are demonstrating what democracy looks like.
Right.
All right. Let's look at something at home. I'm very, very pleased to see Mr. Paulwell looking across the paper at Miss Malahoo Fort. When I spoke about the inadequacy of legal guidance on the FSC board, I immediately remembered the inadequacy of legal guidance that we suffered through as Miss Malahoo Fort guided the Prime Minister from one disaster to the next.
How many disasters? She reached 5 long. Like somebody talk and call about
this attorney
who cares. 5 love, you know?
Boy, I don't know. I don't think anybody counts. It's painful to remember all the Anyway, this is pleasing news to me. I looked at the pre-charge bail clause. I looked at the Bail Act. I've spoken a little about it on air 1 or 2 times, but I did an opinion I was asked to do an opinion on it, and when I researched it and got the full understanding of it, I was appalled that it had got so far. Because to my mind, it should not even have made its way into, it shouldn't even have made its way into the draft. And the way it worked its way into the draft is almost disingenuous. So you know what they did? They created a definition of defendant and said a defendant includes all persons who are detained, including those who are never charged and those who have been charged and are awaiting trial. And then, so I love how you ask it, because that's the simple question. You're a defendant. Yeah, Dowell said, what are they defending? You haven't been charged with anything, so what are you defending? You can't defend your freedom because your freedom is yours. No man can take it away from you unless you consent or unless you give it up under the covenant to which you are a party. So a citizen who has not been charged, ends up as a defendant. And then now, throughout the rest of the act, as they speak about...
We have to defend ourselves against Lowell and the contraptions then.
Against the... It's not Lowell, it's against Bess. Oh, the banner fell on our heads. Anyway, as they continue now to work the provisions of the act, the word defendant is used in all the places where it would properly apply to a person awaiting trial, but it could never apply to a person against whom there is no charge.
And that is why it is so important when we are having discussions with people. I said, let us stop and ensure that myself and Minette is talking about the same thing.
Ah, yes. You do love to do that.
Yes, because some of the time you are talking, me are talking, and me say, are we on the same wavelength? No, we don't think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're reading the word defendant in a place that talks about refusing bail lest he reoffend. But a man against whom there is no charge of an offense, how would he reoffend?
I don't know.
You haven't shown or alleged that he has done anything, yet you are putting him in the same category as someone against whom you have made some specific allegations, you have witnesses, you have credible evidence, and he is actually called upon to defend himself in relation to that charge. Him and the man against whom you have put forward no charge are in the same category. So it must be offensive to that innocent person's constitutional rights. Remember, the Constitution says all of us are innocent until we're proven guilty. But there is one man against whom you have made some specific allegations that you're going to pursue in trial. There's another man against whom you don't have enough evidence to accuse him of anything. And yet he must face the same risks as the other one. Cannot be just. Yet that's the act.
It's like you win the lotto and somebody call me. You have the actual ticket for the lotto.
Yes.
And then somebody call me and say, you win the lotto, but I know I don't buy a ticket.
Yes.
So the two of us go and I say, I come to
receive your money. Not sure why lotto is on your mind.
No, but
I bless you with your purchase. I hope you win.
No, but it's true. So,
yeah.
No, but
you can't have the same right.
No, I don't have the same right. Because you have your ticket, I don't have no ticket. If you think about it in that way, and to communicate in a way that people can say, oh, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Anyway, so here is a report that says a court fight looms on pre-charge bail clause, says Mr. Paulwell.
You can't charge someone. You can't charge someone. But
when I did the research, Percival, I found that the origin of it really is in relation to terrorist activity. And it's usually, domestic terrorism is a new breed of terrorism. Not so new in other places of the world, but we don't even talk terrorist activity. That is where it comes from. Places like the Patriot Act, the UK have their own act that handles terrorist activity. And usually, the reason you can't build a case against the person is because, one, their conspirators or co-conspirators are usually cross-border foreigners. So it's difficult to break into or to gather the information quickly enough. And sometimes it is by taking the person out of play that you can get your investigation to the point where you can take action. Because with terrorism, you're not necessarily looking to arrest anybody. No. Do I need to say it? You're looking at getting rid of persons. Are you serious? So are we just talking to ourselves or are we still on air? Yeah.
No, but I was just trying to
think about it. With terrorist activity, you're not looking at arrest and trial, because sometimes the trial exposes so much about national security that a trial is not what you want. You want
just take them out of commission.
You just want to take them out of commission. That's why you have a Guantanamo Bay black site, why they call it black? That's why you have a place where you can just carry people and incarcerate them. You just leave them there. And sometimes what you want to do is to have a live engagement where nobody lives. You don't want to say you want to kill them,
No, but
you want to draw them into an encounter where nobody survives. Read your spy novels.
No, you know it.
And that's what they're trying to incorporate
into
our law enforcement.
No, but that
protocols.
is serious, you know. That is serious. Because today it could be crime.
We know.
But another day it could be because of your personal religious
and
belief.
Your religious belief. It's your business practices. Whatever the state says against the state becomes an act of terrorism against the state.
Because we see that being employed in other places.
Yeah. But even now, say in the UK, where they have these provisions as regards terrorist activity, their understanding of law and their obedience to the rule of law compels them to say, you still can't take up a man that you believe is a terrorist and just lock him away.
Yeah, but you notice.
But Jamaica don't have that.
No, we don't have that
sensitivity
in law,
to the rights of human beings.
Because we don't have those kind of traditions in terms of how we deal with our people. But I don't want us to miss.
And that's the European Union has same provisions. UK has it. Of course, everybody know the Patriot Act out of the US. They all have it. They have their way, their pre-charge detention scheme that deals with persons who are involved in activities so dangerous to the state and the safety of citizens in the state that you have to have a way of dealing with them that is a little different from how you deal with your domestic criminal conduct.
But let's just stretch this a little bit. Based on...
I met a lady yesterday who said we mustn't stretch it like that.
Mustn't stretch.
Don't speak the negative.
No, it's not negative I'm speaking. I'm just...
Yes, come and know what you want to say. You said it before and you're very right about it.
And
let's hope that those who have ears to hear caught it. A lot of people call us and they say the state is going too far because they know today it's about gangs and guns,
yeah.
And tomorrow is something else.
Yeah.
We saw it was COVID and the safety of the nation requires that you take a job or lose your job.
Yeah.
And many people went too far with it. And we have lived to see the moderation of the behavior concerning those things. Till now, people are just trying to say, well, remember, COVID is still here. And, but it's not with the zeal and the zest and the heavy hand of 2 years ago.
Minute. I'm not going to say take sleep and mark that, I'm just simply saying, because the thing is, if you have a track record of behaving a certain way.
We talked about SSL and the institutional memory.
Is it going to change? Is it going to change? Because...
When the heart changed, per se.
Yeah, but minute, if don't even know, man, all kind of things are passing through my brain.
But you remember now, let's go to prophecy. There is prophecy that tells you that saints of God will be persecuted. We know that.
Yeah.
And the persecution
will
come from the state at different points. It has happened already in humanity. We saw the Inquisitions, and we've seen all through the Reformation years when the church underwent
even the Moravian church,
we hear of, we see what's going on in Afghanistan, for example.
Yeah.
And there are many parts of the world where it is running apace. The question is that the future for saints of God in Jamaica? The persecution will be of a different order. It is already happening.
Yeah.
It's already happening.
It's happening in other countries too, big time.
But it's not always the same shape and flavor.
No.
Because it matches the culture of the country. And as you say, institutionalized memory, you have a way of doing things. You just make it more punitive and oppressive. The way I think it will hit Jamaica, as the state aggregates more power to itself,
yes,
and begin to assert itself as a leader in moral conduct.
You mean like your vice and
the ministry of vice and virtue?
That's a ministry,
in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Right. So
and it's a ministry in Iran too. That is what causing the protest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as it begins to assert itself more from a base of great power, you're going to find that if your business, like let's say you decide that you're not hiring anybody who gay or gender fluid, you will find that you're locked out of access to capital. And these are the ways that even as we look at post-colonial oppression, those are the discussions taking place. The extent to which countries are rendered
post-Christian,
almost impotent by the terms set for them to access capital, have the use of certain technologies, get information, have healthcare and medicines available to them. You may have all the money in the world, but if you are locked out of certain avenues for purchasing, it can be done. When Dr. Melida was speaking to us, in my preparatory discussions with her, actually, she said she had just completed working on opening up a new access to goods in a free zone area to Haiti, because Haiti had been denied access to the free zones in Panama. Now, if you traveled in that region and anywhere you see a Haitian going home, only Haiti and Nigeria I saw with those bags. They're like the giant plastic bags. They go to any size. They're not suitcases. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's from raffia? It's like the rice bag, but it's made for transporting all kinds of goods. I see them because they go to the free zones, they go to the wholesale places in America, in Panama, and they just shop to go back and deal with needs in their country because their country not producing the stuff that they need. They're not no manufacturing. They don't have goods of a certain, quality and flavor. So you go off and you buy every kind of thing and you go back. When you take it back home with you, it's not just for your personal consumption. It is the pipeline for getting goods into the small shops and, corner shops that keep communities going. When you deny American visas or visas to Panama, Haiti was cut off from accessing the free trade zone in the Panama Canal, the Panama Canal as their logistic. Yes. So they couldn't do that kind of business anymore. And she gave them access to one she worked on getting them to have access to one in Colombia.
Okay.
Now, if she were not able to do that, what would be the situation in Haiti for some common things? The people would just fall lower and lower.
Wayside, yeah.
Absolutely. So, put it on the domestic scale now. As our government in Jamaica builds up its power base and pull everything towards themselves, it means now that
Internet of Things,
more and more groups in our society could find themselves cut off from certain things. And that's why NIDS was so feared, because there is the possibility that if every citizen can only access the goods and services in the country through NIDS, and they choose not to be in NIDS,
then they become
and NIDS
segregated.
Become some tool of oppression now.
Yeah, which is
how you vote, which school you go, which community you live in, who are your friends and combolos.
Yeah. And then with NIDS you can do the AI, the artificial intelligence and track people. So and it goes back to the people who have the information. That has always been the system in itself is amoral, but it's the persons now
who's drawing from it.
And using it for control of individuals and persons. No man. Yeah. So that is why the
pre-charge bail clause needs to go to court, because you must understand, no matter what your situation is today, you are comfortable in your home, in your job, you cannot imagine having an unsavory encounter with law and order.
And someone must have had it.
And so you feel that this apply to the dirty boy them out the street will stand up at the corner.
And that is how it is portrayed, the narrative.
Yeah, man, that's all of us moral perspective. That this is not me. I am righteous and I am above this.
And we
But
have
I
to be
want
careful.
every Jamaican to know that the pre-charge bail clause, the one that says, if I pick you up on suspicion of committing an offense, I do not have enough information to make a charge against you, I can detain you and treat you in the same way as I
Somebody who
treat
have
someone
information from-
against whom I have solid information. That is every single citizen that step out of their house. And you know, even if you step out of your house, because police will come at your door, knock at it and ask questions. And if they're not satisfied, that you beat the test. Do you know what was a shock to me? I once had to represent someone who had a party, like
Remember?
one of the round robin something.
Yes, man, you did tell me.
Yes, had a party, left like $400,000 that was made from the party in the care of his girlfriend, who was his wife live a foreign and him come down, have party and leave the money with his girlfriend.
Yes.
The girlfriend was traveling on the roads in Mobay, and the police stopped the car she was in. The car was connected to some known scammers, and the police, that's why they stopped the car. They found her in the car.
The 400,000.
Went to, no, the $400,000 in our yard, in our dresser.
Yeah.
And but the police executed searches at the homes and on the person of each occupant of the car, including this young girl. They took her to her home, searched her house, and found $4,000 tucked away in her drawer.
400,000 or 4,000?
400,000, and there was some little US with it, and small amount of UK money, pound sterling, not big sums. Altogether, she didn't have $1 million. They seized the money and required her to give an explanation of the source. And in fact, I don't even know how it ended, because I'm not even sure how it ended, because I came out of it before it reached its conclusion. But in dealing with the DPP's representative and talking to the young lady, I discovered that there's a whole other thing going on in St. James. If you're caught on the road with more than, must say, $300, it can be taken from you and you must give an explanation.
Okay.
That's what the citizens of Montego Bay, of a certain ilk. Now, there may be many people in Montego Bay who don't even know that there's such a thing, because the police don't have them in their focus as violence producers or persons who are scammers. I mean, I could not believe that the police could take your money, small amount of cash, unless you could explain how you got it. And the explanation has to match whatever their perception is of who you are and what you should have.
In terms of your profile.
So that already, yes, is a huge incursion into the privacy and the sacred
Welcome to the
fundamental
Bar
rights.
Association.
I don't know. They probably only if it come up to court. Because no, that's the other thing, you know. You don't need a lawyer unless you're charged with something.
Hey!
So the police stop you on the road and take your money. You glad you escaped with your freedom intact. You're not going to spend money on a lawyer to get back $300.
Which is why they come up to the 8 o'clock break.
Which we are going to respect, the way we didn't respect the 7:30 break. We treat this one better. Please stay with us. We're going to be right back. Welcome back. Oh, yeah. All right. Pastor Percival, the story you told me within the break, I would love to share it, but I won't.
No, we can't. No,
yeah, but it is an interesting story because right now we're seeing the many ways in which banks are prey to their own staff, are preyed on by their own staff, and
our near banks.
And it's the same pattern you see that has caused the explosion in SSL. You have to be securing yourselves against the danger within as well as the danger without. But that's not anything new, mind you. I'm saying it as if, I remember when we started in telecoms and we were looking for systems, we're looking at firewalls, systems that you introduce to keep out intruders there, right? And every security professional we spoke to made it clear to us that the greatest danger to your security is from inside.
That I know from a long time.
And that don't require no technical wizardry, because even when you look at how certain things are accomplished, the inside man has all the knowledge on how to get around the processes system that you have.
Remember, related to the experience that I had?
Yes, in your private sector life.
Yes, and the gentleman, and we say, how this happen?
Yeah.
And then when we discovered the main person was inside the organization. It's been going on for years.
Yeah. Greatest pressure is from inside.
So when you change the system, the person drag them feet. I eat out my food and they're dragging their feet. And they're not compliant. Everything is said to them, they always find an excuse for it. So, but it's true. It is so true.
All right. We were talking about the pre-charge detention provisions in the Bail Act. The Bail Act has been touted as one of the pillars.
One of the tools.
For addressing crime and violence and restoring peace and order to the society.
What it is, me just read it as a layman.
What
this thing is just one way if it says you are the problem, we don't want to go to the root of the problem. So we just take you out of the system.
We deal with the symptom. You're the symptom.
Yeah.
All right. That's an efficient way of summarizing it. There are a number of voices that have been raised in protest. I'm very happy to see the Norman Manley Law School amongst those voices. The Jamaicans for Justice group, well, that is expected. Jamaican Bar Association, also among those who raise concerns about the constitutionality of the provision. I am very happy to see all these. Do you remember when I spoke about quotidian civil society organizations?
Beginning to come to the fore.
Yes. These everyday people, although they're not quite everyday
people,
but persons coming out, they're not political, they're not tied to any known financial house or political house. Those persons coming out of their comfort zone and speaking against certain things, it has been observed, scientists studied it, and they observed change, the way change occurred in some societies that were the subject of great upheaval, and they found that the most effective line of protest was from just the everyday man. And it's why
that's why real change can happen. Yeah.
It's why on the Morning Connection we pull the heart out of those who call us to get the feeling of the everyday man so that we can be a part of passing on the information to achieve change. So all those institutions spoke against it. The chairperson of the committee, Marlene Malahou Ford, said she appreciates the constructive approach being taken by the opposition. And they are going to do their own final review and come back with a final position on Clause 5. Now, what would be disappointing is if the entire reform of the Bail Act got delayed by a determination to introduce this pre-detention. But may I tell you, this pre-charge provision, but the Bail Act, the largest change the single important change
Clause 5.
is that clause.
When you look at it, yeah.
Yeah, so except for maybe
look at what you said.
updating certain things, the Bail Act as it stands could survive, because if you take away that clause 5, you have the old Bail Act.
Okay.
With some,
cosmetic changes.
Cosmetic changes, but this is what they're seeking to get.
Other
countries did it by addressing terrorism, whether it's domestic terror or from international sources. They separated it.
So they made
as a species.
A domestic terrorism act.
No, they terrorism, whether domestic or international, is terrorism. So they put it as acts against the state.
Okay.
Yeah. Chairperson, what did she say? We in the government also had to spend a lot of time going through the provision, and a lot of questions arose before the bill. So even their own side never fully understand it. I think it is entirely reasonable that you want to think it through, she said. But it's a bill. Do you know how many stages it got through before it's a bill?
That's how we learn when we went to Parliament. That's what I discovered.
White paper, green paper, cabinet
paper
submission.
Red paper means stop.
There was a red paper. So a red paper is coming?
Yes.
A red paper for that clause is coming. She castigated, this lady cannot resist tit for tat. Malahou Ford castigated Jamaicans for Justice for indicating that the pre-charge bail provision was suggestive that the government sees the constitutional rights as a mere privilege rather than what the Constitution safeguards. Badly said, but the JFJ is right. It's not elegantly said. Yeah, because when she speaks, that should be the final word.
No, when they trying to castrate trying to castrate Jamaican people.
Yes.
Take away their cojones.
Their cojones.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, but it is true. In the treatment of bail for those, that's class of individuals, you do get the clear, it's not a suggestion, you get the clearest indication that the government sees the freedom of persons that the police pick up as a privilege that they must fight to retain.
So they couldn't say it another way then. Because if in what is coming out of your heart, out of the abundance of their heart, you're speaking, you're putting things out there in the public domain. What you are saying is that it's not a right, it's a privilege.
It's a privilege, and you need to fight to retain it.
Yeah, but nothing can.
Because if you're not charged with an offense, but the police won't hold you, and you must go to court and ask for bail. It's confusing.
Bail.
Yes,
but you can't.
Confusing to a lot of people that they're calling it bail.
But why must I go to court if you have no charge against me? What is
and do you know, I sent you the opinion that I did, but can I tell you the strongest signal that the Constitution did not intend for persons against whom no charge has been laid to be in bail court is because it only talks about bail in relation to persons awaiting trial. When it is addressing persons detained, it speaks about release. Catch and release? That's what it speaks about. It does not use the word bail, except where it addresses persons awaiting trial.
I'm not telling
when it addresses persons who are detained and persons who are in custody, because you can be in custody. No, it talks about persons who are arrested and persons who are detained. Because you can be arrested and not be detained.
Yeah, because there's a clear distinction.
Yes.
To the man out in the street.
Absolutely. You know what it is to be arrested. You can be arrested and they never detain you. You do your paperwork to complete the formalities of an arrest and you are released.
Out on bail.
Or they don't, or they let you go. Because when they arrest you, it's just to stop you in your tracks, so to speak.
And say you need to come check me. That's what they do with some people.
Yeah. Or they might say, they pick you up, take you to the station, do whatever they want to do, question you, and then you're free to go.
And there's no charge preferred against.
No charges put against you.
So the fact
and
that
some people will sue for wrongful arrest.
Yes, and that has happened.
And yes. But even so, they don't detain you in custody. When you look at our constitution,
so when you are detained, that's when you get bail.
When you're detained, no.
You get bail.
If you are charged.
Oh.
Bail don't arise. Suppose they detain you, put no charge against you. Nobody can say, I'm asking for bail, he's been detained on these offenses. They do the habeas corpus, bring the body before the court. Habeas corpus.
I know.
Latina.
It's just that.
Yeah. So if you're arrested and the police detain you, they've not charged you, the law gives them a certain period of time in which they can have you before they charge you, 72 hours.
That is 3 days.
So, and that's plenty because the Constitution says you must be brought forthwith before the court.
Okay.
And if they don't bring you before the court, you're under detention. You have the right the other right you have is to contact family. And you must know why they've held you. So when you contact your mother or your wife and say, I'm in lockup, the police don't tell me yet what is going on with me. Your wife is supposed to call up a lawyer and say, let them bring his body before the court.
And then bring the person. I like the
No,
body.
habeas corpus.
We don't.
Because, it's so, I think why that ancient relic is still standing is because if the police have you, don't charge you with anything, they're really not treating you like a living person.
Okay.
Because a living person has certain rights which are set there. So when they have you there like a non-entity, someone is going to say, bring that you have there before the court.
Bring the body before the court.
So habeas corpus. Bring the person before the court.
But in their thing, you have no
When
right.
that person, so that's not a defendant being brought before the court.
That's correct.
Because he's not defending against any charges.
Right.
It's just a person who has been detained.
Good.
That's how the Constitution and the precedent law treats that situation. It don't regard it as bail. When you're brought before the court because you have been detained by the police, but they're not accusing you of anything. They haven't charged you. It is for the court to look now at the circumstances of it. In the modern day laws that deal with terrorist activity.
No, before you go there.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm just trying to get this very, very clear for me.
In case they hold you.
No, not even thinking. Just for the persons out there who are listening. All right.
All
So
right.
under the Constitution.
Thank you.
Yes. Percival Palmer is walking down the road.
In an area known to be frequented by
Persons, criminals, and so on.
Yeah,
All right.
I was gonna say pedophiles, but
Well,
that's
no,
not
no,
even fair.
Yeah. So I'm walking and the
Yeah.
policeman stopped me. And I'm saying to him, officer,
No, first thing I'm going to say to you, you live here?
oh,
You
that's
say
it.
no.
No.
You have your ID, you want to know, say, me did I walk with my ID and
I
then,
leave my wallet.
Yes.
Yeah, so
what business are you on? Well, I'm new to I'm just visiting Jamaica and I want to look around.
So you can-
You understand what happened in this area? This is not a safe area for you. No, officer, I'm a cool man. Me can't get by. And he's watching you and he asks you one or two more questions and he concludes, say, Percy's up to no good.
okay.
He picks you up.
He picks me up and
Yes.
he takes me to the
Takes
police
you to
station.
the police
Am I
station.
arrested in that?
Yes, you've been arrested.
So he don't have to
And,
read me
well,
the rights, aren't
let's put it this way. You certainly have been detained now because you're at police station.
he? Yes.
If he says to you, Mr., he needs to use the words that suggest that you can't leave of your own free will.
Okay.
Let me put it that way. So let's say you say, can I go now? I say, no, I think we need to go downtown.
Okay.
Or whatever. And you might say, am I under arrest? He may say yes or no, but he certainly has you.
Right. So I'm detained.
You're detained.
Okay.
And if you were to remonstrate with him in any aggressive manner, now him have a thing to complain about.
As
And
in
he will
ca-
say, I'm arresting you for interfering with a policeman in the carrying out his duties.
Okay, so
obstruction of a policeman in his duties.
Or obstruction or behaving boisterously and tell him to clot and thing.
And right. So
And
now
so
he
him have a
arrests
charge.
you. He arrests you. He take you to the station. Now him have to consider whether he actually charges you. But he may be acting on information that a strange man is walking through the community. And when he come upon you, you didn't satisfy him that you were up to anything lawful.
Right.
So he keeps you at the station and he makes some phone calls and say, the man you can recognize him. I have a man here, but maybe he's told that whoever him need to talk to won't be there until tomorrow.
Okay.
So him decide to keep you overnight.
I'm
we're
detained or
creating
arrested.
a narrative.
Yeah.
You're detained.
I'm detained, but
You're
I'm
detained.
not arrested
He
yet.
may not have arrested you. Well, remember, he arrested you on the boisterous conduct.
Yeah.
But he hasn't decided yet to lay a charge to take you to court, because maybe you were boisterous, but it's just because your blood sugar low
or something like
something
that.
forgivable. So he has you there. The law gives him a minimum time in which he can do that fooling around before he lets you go.
Which is 72
hours,
right.
outside of state of emergency time.
So that means that if, like, on a Monday this happens, by Wednesday,
you should know your fate, or he must just release you.
Okay.
But suppose him have you until Thursday, and Michelle says, that was a nice holiday from Percy, but enough is enough.
Yes.
He needs to come home now.
And she
calls a lawyer, and the lawyer says, bring Percy before the court. The lawyer would no doubt contact where you're held and say to the officer, you have any charges against Mr. Palmer? He might say yes or no. Yet say he says, there's a citizen complained of so and so, and can you really do a Q&A?
And we have him
on closed circuit camera.
No, not only we have him as a something package.
Intelligence package. Oh, Jesus, Percy. I didn't know you had been so busy.
I understand.
All right.
So up until this point, I'm still detained.
You're still detained.
But I have not been arrested.
But you have not been charged. No, you're definitely arrested.
So detention and arrest are in the same category then?
Detention follows arrest.
Okay.
But you can be arrested and allowed to be and released on your own recognizance.
On my own bail, yeah.
Yes. Or you get station bail in some other way, bring a surety.
Yeah.
Those things can happen. But I was keeping you detained without charge.
Right.
So you could understand what processes you would be subject to. If you're detained without charge and Michelle gets a good lawyer and you're brought before the court and the policeman can't justify why he had you in custody in the first place, the judge will order him to release you.
Okay.
But if you were really in custody...
let's come back, because I saw this would apply if there...
Yes, I want to speak about now if you are an intelligence package when we come back. Have it on yours?
Yes, so as you were explaining to me, but also to our listeners and viewers in terms of our scenario that we have created, that detention, arrest. So we're at the point in which you were saying that, okay, you held me for 3 days according to the 72 hours. And Michelle said, okay, I'm gone enough on a holiday. He needs to come back. And she contacts a lawyer, and the lawyer comes to the court and says, officer, where you have Pastor Palmer in your locked up? Go ahead.
Okay. Now we're talking. We're getting to the stage now where the police doesn't want to let you go. You've been doing a great job ministering in jail.
Yes, right.
And they don't want to let you go. What are the considerations for the court? The first is the court would be seized of the knowledge that your constitution guarantees you conditional or unconditional release. Now, that is what it says about bail. And that's what it says about any person brought before the court who has been arrested or detained. Your conditional or unconditional release. Conditional because there might be something, the police might say to you, Mr. Palmer, I'm letting you go, but don't leave the country.
So that's conditional.
That's conditional.
Right.
No, that's release. They've released you. It's good sometimes to use the actual words of the Constitution because it talks about the citizen being entitled to being released conditionally or unconditionally.
Yeah.
And that's the general section that deals with persons who are arrested or detained.
So the conditional, I know I've seen people who have been out on bail and every day they have to
go and report.
That's
the
condition of their bail.
Yes.
The unconditional bail means you're free to...
Nothing.
Yeah, okay.
You need to do.
All right.
So this is how the section, let me read this section. No person shall be deprived of his liberty except on reasonable grounds and in accordance with fair procedures established by law. In the following circumstances. One circumstance is the arrest or detention of a person for the purpose of bringing him before a competent legal authority on suspicion of his having committed an offense. It goes on to provide that any person who is arrested or detained shall have the right to, at the time of detention or as soon as is reasonably practicable. Now, the reasonably practicable time frame is the 72 hours.
Okay, right.
To be informed of the reason for his arrest, where he is charged with an offense, to be informed of the nature of the charge.
So like in the case, the scenario, here I was walking, a foreigner walking in this place that is known to be a
haunt for criminals.
Right?
Yeah.
I lose my wallet. Never took my wallet today, but me just walk up and down and the policeman.
You have no idea on
and
you.
And the policeman says, okay, and he say, yeah, I'm going to take you in for further questioning. Because based on his intelligence, one strange person in the area and the people which is their civic duty to say, they have a relationship with the police and say, you know, Officer Lowell, this man in the area, we don't know about him. So come
let's
check him
make
out.
it interesting.
Yeah.
You're at the corner where people either sell drugs or practice prostitution.
Yes.
He picks you up from there. He's supposed to say to you, I am arresting you on suspicion of your being involved in selling drugs,
or
maybe look in your pocket and
soliciting.
find, or soliciting, right? Maybe he goes into your pocket, him search you and spot and him find an envelope with something suspicious looking. He hasn't confirmed what it is, but he's sufficiently concerned to take you in.
Okay.
Right. So the Constitution says, as soon as it's practicable, you are to be told of the reason for your arrest, or where they charge you with an offense, you're to be informed of the nature of the charge. So the reason for your arrest would be told to you. Mr. Palmer, I'm arresting you on suspicion of trafficking in drugs or solicitation of minors.
Minors, yes.
The section goes on to say now that you are guaranteed conditional or unconditional restoration of your liberty The wording is, such a person shall be brought forthwith or as soon as is reasonably practicable before an officer authorized by law or a court and released, not bailed, released either unconditionally or upon reasonable conditions to secure his attendance at trial or at any other stage of the proceedings. So it contemplates here that a man can be arrested, told that I'm arresting you because of so and so, then released and told, don't leave town because the next stage of the proceeding is to put you in a lineup ID thing or put you through further questioning as more information comes in.
This person, would I be released on bail or I'm just
released?
Okay, so it's not that
It
I get.
you're not bailed, because bail is after you're charged and you're awaiting trial.
Okay, so they take me in and say, Mr. P, I'm gonna release you, but know that at some point in time you might have to come back for ID because parade or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And remember now that it's not any kind of condition they can impose on you. It must be reasonable to secure your attendance at trial or any other stage of the proceedings. So they can't say to you, you can't go to, you're forbidden during you're forbidden from visiting the town of Montego Bay. Or you're being released, but I don't want to hear that you went to church.
Okay.
It must be a condition that is to secure your attendance to the next stage in the process or for trial.
So up until this point, I've not been charged with anything.
In your case?
Yeah.
Yes.
In this case, at the scenario that we are looking at with me at the center of it, I've not been charged.
No,
the only time that I can get bail is after I've been charged.
Yeah. So if suppose the police fail to release you when a first request is made, then the habeas corpus would get you before a higher court now because it's like an appeal. But it's not an appeal because you've not been charged with anything. So they get you to a higher court. So a higher position judge can look at the circumstances under which they are continuing to detain you.
Which is beyond the 72 hours.
Yeah. Now, they can even ask for you to be brought before the 72 hours, where it is manifestly clear that there is no possible way. Like, Percy have amnesia or Percy is a sick man walking up and down pretending to be whatever. And he shouldn't even be in court, or his health is such that if he's not given treatment within a certain time. So they can ask for you to be brought before the reasonable time. They don't have to wait on 72 hours. They can ask immediately, depending on the circumstances. But I want to touch on how the court can permit a person against whom there's no charge to be held and the way it has developed in other countries. Basically, they say the police must show that they are moving diligently and expeditiously to gather whatever information is needed to allow them to make a charge or not.
Okay.
So at that point, the judges are they're not looking at the nature of the offense or the strength of the rumors against you, or even to some extent who you are. They put on trial the police work.
Oh, okay.
Because before the police can pick you up, they should have sufficient information to justify that step.
So the case in which a man say me walk in and say get some intelligence, he have to have, by now he must have something to say. That is why I hold Percy.
That's why I took up Percy. And they make a very interesting point, which our law enforcement people have been struggling to communicate. Reasonable suspicion that an offense has occurred does not need to be based on evidence that can be admitted in court.
Okay.
It can be based on stolen information or information obtained through bribery of somebody else. It can be based on observations from a position which cannot be disclosed. Like you put an undercover policeman in a gang.
Okay.
You can come to court and say, "Me have an undercover policeman in the gang."
Okay.
And
the
him
police
tell
has
me,
been
say,
paying, she said, we need to adjust the
right.
system.
Or the police have a confidential informant in the gang who give them information. You can't put in an affidavit that, the gang leader's wife is giving me information. Or,
okay.
Right. So it does not have to be information that could be admissible in court. All of us know that a husband and wife situation, you can't take the husband or the wife's evidence against the other, unless they are the ones suing one another. So it's not admissible.
Okay.
And not admissible on the grounds of credibility. Yeah. I would come and say anything to save my husband if I'm in still good standing with him. Or I might come and say anything to condemn him if I'm trying to get a divorce and keep all the assets.
Yeah, but that's
so you can't trust that evidence.
So the police have been saying what? That
those information packages that you and I speak of, those information packages, 90% of it, no, 99.9% of it is based on information not admissible in court ultimately. It's their intelligence work that they have conducted.
So what in effect we are doing, we are stymieing the work of the police and we're not allowing them to the intelligence package?
What? Sorry, say that again.
So are we preventing good police work by not allowing them to be able to tell you the source?
No, we don't need to know the source of what's in the intelligence package.
So it's okay for them.
So what they want to do is treat the subject of those intelligence packages the way other countries treat terrorists, where their rights are suspended until you can deny or confirm what your intelligence is suggesting. The countries where that's done, they hive it off into a place. It's done under their national security provisions, and then they have some standards that they apply.
Also, so one of the things is standards. Things that are understood and are acceptable in law.
The United Kingdom, for example, you can hold a person like that for a maximum of 28 days.
And in the 28 days, you
must ripen your intelligence to evidence that can found a charge.
Which is this what the opposition is saying, that you can use other provisions instead of doing this?
Yes.
Okay.
But no, they're saying you can go to a court. In the countries where they do it, is the court that give them the permission to continue to hold the person.
So what your contention is, use the court system in order to carry out what you're seeking to do.
Yes.
Instead of putting it in the Bail Act, and then it's very much dependent on.
No, what they try to do is set time frames in the Bail Act that would pretty much give them the same thing without going to court. Okay. But I'm making the point here that in the UK, where they do it under their legislation, they can't go beyond 28 days.
Within 28 days, that means they must have good police work happening.
Yeah, and this is 28 days going to court, and the court giving you extensions.
Okay.
They have not 28. It must be consecutive. Okay. You now release him and take him out back. Okay. But as you're allowed extensions to a maximum of 28 days all the time, you showing the court that you are doing your best using all the modern advantages of technology and surveillance and analysis of intelligence and evidence gathering. You're doing all of that. And the maximum pre-charge detention under their Terrorism Act in the UK is 28 days. And this is currently the longest of any common law jurisdiction. Of course, in
US?
No, in Russia and other in China. But in common law jurisdictions, the 28 days is the longest period for holding someone in that category.
So just to go back to our scenario, I've been held. I got the
Me think you love it, Nobody repeat all of your scenario.
No. But me think, no, man. No, I just want to bring it to an end. I bringing it
It's
to
not
an
just
end.
that. Percy loved the drama of being held by the police and being brought to court and
I don't think so.
the whole fiction of it.
No, but no, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
So,
let's wrap it up.
so at the end of it all,
Yes.
72 hours, the lawyer comes in based on Michelle's intervention. I said, "Please,
Thank God you have
my
Michelle.
come back home," and then they have to charge me or let me go.
Or let you go.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
have to charge
And
me.
the court that looks at whether they can continue to hold you, the court looks at what the police is doing in the meantime. Are they seeking to gather the information so they can make a charge expeditiously and diligently? In other words, they don't want to hear said this officer was on leave or he was on duty in another court and he's the investigating officer and we can't find the file and all those things.
Those are not good enough.
Those are not acceptable. Yeah.
And so therefore,
But you see, Percy, in all this, where we start going off the tracks is where we treat chronic crime and violence in the society as something that is special and unique and require the suspension of rights and freedom. Under the legislation in the UK and in the European Union, they quite rightly have that kind of approach reserved for terrorists. Yeah. Acts against the state.
So hold on a second.
Which can be domestic in nature as well as
yeah, but it means
international.
300 intelligence packages. If the bail act was to go through as it, they would be treated as terrorists?
They would be their constitutional rights would be suspended as if we were they're terrorists or they're at war. We're at war.
Wow.
Yeah.
That means that it goes back to a fundamental issue. Where's the crime plan? How are we gonna deal with?
And that can't be the crime plan.
That can't be the crime plan.
Yeah, and if you don't feel like it is, you should stand in the gap for the neighbor who is constantly thieving fruit off your tree and making trouble in the community. Then stand in the gap for yourself or your son who might be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like maybe him car broke down and him accept a ride from somebody and the police stop their car and those persons are really problem persons.
Problem
They're going to scrape up all of them.
Problem child, as you call it this
morning. Yes. So, I mean, that's just an area that we need to understand and as best we can put our weight behind it so that the administration don't go down a wrong path. And then we have a piece of legislation that we then have to fight to remove it.
Yeah, because if you put this in and it go to the court, that's why Paul is saying, looks like we're heading to court as you guys not budging, and everybody said Bar Association, Jamaicans for Justice, the lawyer saying something is wrong with this thing.
Yeah. And of course, the police want it, the prosecution want it, because it make everybody's job easier. See, there was Miss Llewellyn Fort. Who's Llewellyn Fort?
No. You tell
Paula
me.
Llewellyn.
Paula Llewellyn.
There was Miss Paula Llewellyn saying people must.
Paula Fort.
I made a baby out of the two of them. There she was saying persons need to plead guilty more to reduce the stress. It sounds ridiculous. People need to plead guilty more to reduce the stress on the court system. So can you imagine how happy they would be if people are being incarcerated without charge? It means way less crimes to litigate.
Really? You know, yeah, but another problem, you shift the problem somewhere.
Precisely, you just move it to another.
And the truth is, the only way you deal with problems is deal with problems at their source.
At the root,
yeah, you can't keep shifting it. And we see that nobody don't want the bad press and just thinking about elections. Let us fundamentally fix the problems.
You know, I'm looking at what Miss Malahoo Fort said. Maybe that's why her name was coming into my head. This lady, and she's young enough to be, we might have to contend with her for a while if certain things happen. She is no friend of guaranteed rights. Miss Malahoo Fort says, rights are not absolute. Under the new constitutional arrangements, And she's the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Reform. She says, under the new constitutional arrangements, we don't have them yet, but she's forecasting, rights are not absolutely guaranteed. And it means that to safeguard the rights, someone has to be responsible. As individuals residing in the country, who I am sure are not oblivious or immune to the challenges faced, we have to always be very careful in the message that we send, that we do not unwittingly embolden those who are hell-bent on respecting no one's rights and through their actions prevent others from enjoying the rights that are guaranteed. What does that mean, Percy?
I'm trying to interpret it.
She said she has become increasingly intolerant of those who would rather maximize the problems instead of focusing on arriving at appropriate solutions. Fitz-Jackson took time out to tell her that her comments were unreasonable.
Unreasonable don't make no sense?
Fitz reminded her that her comments could serve to dissuade members of the public from participating in critically reviewing legislation and policy. To highlight shortfalls in the provisions, I think that is in order, he said. So she was castigating Jamaicans for Justice and saying that
so
they were just...
when we went to...
Yes, man. They were just highlighting the problems. They weren't looking for solutions.
But if somebody not like the problem, the U.S. government must come up with a solution because they are seeing something.
But the whole idea of reviewing legislation is not to slap the people on their back and say, well done.
No.
It's to highlight the shortfalls.
And that you
so
see
you
down
can
the
do a
road.
better job.
Yeah, that you are seeing down the road and say, can we make this better, seeing that we're thinking about it? Because what is going to happen? You put this in, and you're going to get a whole ream of lawsuits under the Constitution. So make it good legislation. You know, you can have good law and bad law.
Of course.
Okay. You know, because you are the lawyer.
Yes, and because I know the law of man is bad law.
Yeah. Because their motivation not right at all. Not right at all. Not right at all. Yeah. Yeah. So, boy.
But we don't need a minister of legal reform and legal and constitutional reform who believes that fundamental rights and freedoms are to be bartered in exchange for a greater sense of security.
But you know what has happened is that because we are under such a narrative of fear and thing, we just give up everything. And then we see how far we are going. You understand?
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons why I like to listen to what those persons are saying, because their perspective is what drives the solutions that they reach for and the choices they make. So when I hear Malahoo Fort expressing herself in that way, I know that she's one who believes that you need to rein them in, curb them. And may I just say, you stifle the ingenuity, creativity, and cultural expression of people when you put too heavy a boot on their necks. And the creative juices that drive the productive capacity of a country come from the same wellspring that give you the outrageous criminality and so on that you see.
What is it?
If man is not free in the most essential ways, he will not produce.
True.
Do you know that as we were looking at the valuation of slave labor, one point that was made is that even the highest producing slave was still producing below par because he was only moving under coercive action.
I'm listening.
So while slave labor was efficient in the economic sense, only because you didn't pay for it. It's
eventually
not because
it became very expensive. That is why they stopped doing sugar. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the free man, a free man, let's say you get a job of work to go and clear over there, so, and you are told that your price is X, and if you bring it in before time, there's an incentive of Y. You would spend 24 hours on it as best as your body could manage.
Yeah.
The man who moves only at the crack of the whip.
Only move at the crack of the whip.
Only move at the crack of the whip, which means you have to be there cracking the whip too. The two of you are enslaved. You by the whip, him by the whip.
So as we come to our 9 o'clock break, an interesting point.
I turned it in that direction because I want Jamaicans to understand that there is a price we will pay for this safety that is extracted through the oppressive treatment of others. That price is higher than you might think because your productive capacity is compromised when people become terrified and are hiding and so on and so forth. But we'll explore it a little bit more when we come back.
Okay.
All right, welcome back. And it's so wonderful to see 3 comments from one person alone, right? 3 comments. Percy, Big Chuck says, so what if Percy committed a crime?
If Percy committed a crime, he have to go to thing. But I just wanted for you to clearly outline what are the steps. So if you commit a crime, you don't have to deal with it. The consequences, that's what the law allows for. But a lot of people, in terms of the new provisions that are being proposed, never understood the difference. For me, I must say, between detention, arrest, bail, and how you get there.
Yeah. So if you did actually commit a crime, meaning it gone past allegations now, either you're confessed or you've been found guilty, you would just do your time, deal with the consequences, and repent.
Yes.
Yeah. But to your point, Mr. Big Truck, you say that we are concerned about police, but we have no concern about the criminals in high places. That's not true, and that's unfair. Criminal activity,
in high places has come to the fore.
Yeah.
But
also, I don't know the criminals in high places because I don't know who they are. I know of criminal misconduct because you see the fruit of it.
Yeah, all over it.
And that is something that we are addressing every day. But the way to address it, and I'm glad you kind of put it that way, because many persons might listen to us and say, we don't want the police to have the right tools, or we don't want. We spend a lot of time speaking about the way in which you address things in society that lead to criminal misconduct. And it might not be a popular position, and many persons are looking for short-term solutions, but the short-term solutions for this one, it's in the area of law enforcement and administration of what happens in the courts of justice. And that's covered. In fact, one of the things we are forcing persons to contemplate is that if you go too heavy-handed on the short term, you spoil your ability to be effective in the medium and long term.
You don't spoil. You just shot it in the arm. You kill it.
You destroy it.
You destroy it because, you see, we have a tendency, and let's speak to the principle here, of dealing with things short term but not understanding what are the long term implications of what it is. It's a case of Jesus. The principle was we are telling people you need to fix it, but you are saying you have a mote in your eye now, but you forget that you have
you have a plank in your eye.
Yes. You tell the person you have a little speck out of the person.
Out of another person. But, put it another way, right now, we are experiencing the long-term effects of some short-term policies
that were
done repeatedly. You're only always focusing on wiping up the blood after it is spilled. You're not putting enough time and effort into prevention. Prevention is a funny thing, You don't know that it has worked. Because it never happens.
Because it prevents the thing from coming to light. Yeah.
The only way you'll know that a strategy is working is history will tell you. You dead and gone, people are living and eating the fruit of the effort you put in. They don't know that it's because you took it on the nose 20 years in the past that they are reaping something today. And we are not sufficiently conscious of our responsibility to think, make policy, and act in that way. We think that we must plant it today and reap the fruit tomorrow. Or plant it in the morning and you reap it in the evening. And that defies the laws of nature.
Because the prevention strategy is you planting something good because you know long term you're going to reap the fruit of
you plant it, you nourish it,
and you see it grow.
And you reap it properly. You're not rough with it at any time in its life cycle. That's gonna compromise it. You end up with a crippled harvest. Mixing my metaphors, but I think you'll get the point. So when you are addressing short term, you've caught a man, he has erred, you put him in jail, you must attend to his rehabilitation.
You have to.
because when he comes out, that's another problem. So what you do with him is not for the immediate moment. It is for 20 years down. It's even for his children. It's for his family members who should not be embittered by how he is treated whilst he is in custody. So we have to be rigorous in our scrutiny of these short-term solutions that are being put in place. It's not just a matter of human rights. It's a matter of preserving the existence of mankind in a way that is dignified and positive. So there's that. There's no shortcut for the other one. The child today that you're securing his early childhood education in a way that is of quality and for the right period of time.
With all the psychosocial interventions.
Absolutely. The things that they spoke about for the wards of court.
Yeah.
That child, you're not going to reap anything from that child.
No, you're going to get a well-adjusted member of society.
But you won't reap it.
You reap it in terms of the stability. You're not going to reap that.
That is in the future.
Way. And so we need to understand that simple principle of sowing and reaping in terms of what it really means for us as a society. Somebody sent me something yesterday about the impact of fatherlessness in society, and they were just checking out. I think I'd forward it to you in terms of US versus other countries. So they were saying, like, you've seen it in the US, where they're saying they have the highest percentage of single parent homes.
So the black men, the men are in jail?
No, not only black men, but across the board, white and black and everybody. In some ethnic groups, it's more than
it's higher than in others.
And they were saying, he was saying, like they were checking China and another country, comparing it to US, and they said they are 3 or 4%, but US is 23%. So they say must see what is happening. So let's look at the simple statistics of having unstable family life and structures.
If the devil mash up family life, he accomplishes a great deal.
And we don't even we understand, because just reflecting on it, even though in Jamaica of old you had a lot of people, you'd call it living common law.
In relationships.
Yeah. It was a stable structure. It was a stable family structure that people say their mother and father were together for years. They weren't married, but it was a stable structure that they know who their mother and their father were. You have a lot of people growing up, and I've had to deal with it in terms of young ladies or young men, and they say, who's their father? I mean, I don't know.
But what brings that? What do you think disrupted that? Is it the pastors telling the people that they're living in sin and they must go get married, and as soon as they get married, them broke up and gone their own way? Is it more women in the workforce, and therefore? So there are a lot of things. But I want to ask you one question.
You're one question. I'm afraid of them.
What seed did we plant? Why we are reaping a preponderance of financial crimes, including the scamming. Scamming is a financial crime,
You know that.
You con money out of people. Maybe people might think it's something else, but it's a financial crime. We are reaping a preponderance of financial crimes from high to low places.
Is it a question of?
What seed did we plant? I know you're afraid of that one question.
No, but I'm just reflecting on it as you are. There's running a lot of things through my mind.
When it comes to aberrant behavior in men and women, you think in terms of a generation. So you have to look, when did we plant? That would have to be like 25 years ago. What happened 25 years ago? When were the FinSAC years? Oh my goodness.
In the 90s.
I might have unwittingly answered myself.
Yes, but
I didn't plan to. I wanted you to answer.
Yeah.
But it just struck me as I look at...
In the 90s, yeah, man. In the 90s, remember, yeah, man.
So we're reaping FinSAC?
Reaping the rewards of FinSAC.
Okay. I hope someone doesn't steal that idea, because we need to. We need to explore it a bit more. I'm looking at the headline that says, multi-million-dollar fraud probe rocks Knox Community College. sleepy little Mandeville town. And they're saying tens of millions. Did I say Mandeville? Or I said Spalding?
No, I said Mandeville.
Mandeville? Okay. No, not Mandeville. Sorry, Mandeville. Your crimes are different.
Manchester.
Manchester is what I wanted. Tens of millions of dollars.
Fraud. And it's with
fraudulently obtained through the falsification of a number of checks.
I wonder.
Issued by the college.
Remember me telling my story?
Yes.
Yes, you wonder what is happening there. Because I was just saying with a bank that we deal with, and now we call the bank's name. We have check series that we are working with, and then the supervisor of a facility that we have called and say, the lady go to the bank and they said, no money. They say, that can't right, because they just made a deposit of hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we call the bank. They send the checks to us and I say, but those checks are not our check series. We do not have those check series in our possession. So this happens in December.
And this is not a series from the past.
No.
This is, reach there yet.
Reach it yet.
Good.
So, it's how we go. All right. So the bank reverse it. Then in January again, the same thing happens. So I go into the bank and says, spoke to the lady and she said, okay, we're going to escalate it. But now we have to be checking the account electronically every day.
To make sure you haven't been
robbed.
And
the same series that we don't have in our possession come up again. And when you look at the signatures, them, because my signature, I say, if me never know what my signature is, but I think it's my signature.
Somebody did a perfect job.
Yeah, I say, no, man, that is, let me look at it first. I say, that look like, man, let me look deeper. I say, no. They don't understand a piece of my signature.
Aye.
Because I know my signature.
They don't listen to your show. They must study it more closely now.
Study, but they have to know me to know why that is in there. So I called it in and I said.
So did you explain to the bank what makes that not your signature?
No, why would I tell you?
Oh, no, because you know my theory.
Yeah?
My theory to you is that if it is
3 times 6 checks.
Yeah, if it is check in the series that you don't yet receive from the bank, then it's either somebody in the bank or somebody who print the check. If the checks are printed externally, it's somebody who outside. If the checks are prepared internally, then it's somebody in the bank have it. So and they're using it as best they can to see how much they can get away with.
Because we're not looking at it, you see, we don't draw checks for those amounts because we don't have water bill for them amounts. Some big checks, you know what I'm saying? And I think probably if you read that some more,
it's a similar way that it was carried out.
Is it in the bank? Is it something at the organization? And when I talked to the lady, she said, no, she put it back on me. I said, so we're not doing the investigation because it's not millions of dollars. But,
All right. So here's the discovery at Knox. The banks called to verify 3 checks presented to them. 3 checks with numbers coinciding with ones issued by the college, but apparently altered to reflect greater amounts. That's such an easy case to resolve, because that either happened at the hand of the person who carried the check to the bank.
To the great previously. So them look at me account and say, but them don't know, so we not have them check series there now. We never see them yet.
No, but these were not. These now are checks. This is like what the lady confessed to. You write a check for $50,000. You give it to me. I somehow managed to put a 1 in front of the 50 and put a 100,000 in front of the $50,000. We never know how that would work still on the check leaf, but that's how it is. That's how it's accomplished. I just managed to use the same pen. So maybe I come to you for you to write up the check or sign the check, and worse yet for people who sign a blank check and give it to a trusted staff member and say, just finish this for me, I don't have no time, I'm rushing to a meeting.
They rushed into your account.
Yeah, but you see, either the person who you entrust to do it commit the fraud, or when it gets into the bank, somebody in the bank does it. Yeah. That is so easy, because only if you track the custody of the check, you will know exactly when it was changed. And there are some people who, when they write a check, they just copy it, and whoever receive it is receiving it have to just sign on the copy.
Wow.
So you can, it's a very old-fashioned way of maintaining. But as I looked at that headline, I said, what did we do 25 years ago that is causing us to reap this abundance of financial crimes? It's just the same way you can look at when you see a lot of sexual crimes during a season. You know, the first time I did that reverse engineering model on social problems, you go into a family and you hear all of the children born May. I say, what did the parents do 9 months before May that caused them to celebrate with the conception of a child?
Anniversary.
It might be the anniversary. You realize that you can look at what you see today and create a map to what set it in motion.
That's how we do genograms.
And it's like the carnival babies in Trinidad.
And the carnival babies in Jamaica.
We know of carnival babies.
In Jamaica.
Or there's a season when a lot of cell phones are stolen. You can always look back and say, what was going on? So it is. Jamaica did something, and we're reaping the fruit of it. And it seemed like it's been sacked.
Or
the meltdown in the banks.
I have
that created an insecurity about money and created a moral position where take it by any means.
That's what it is.
Yeah. So by any means necessary becomes the way to do it. Let me work that out.
Look at Jamaica. So in the 70s, it was self-reliance. Remember?
Yes.
In the 80s, when we came, it was the 3 V's, the visa, the Volvo, or the video. You remember that in Jamaica in the 80s? And then in the 90s now, we've shifted to, by whatever means necessary, I'm going to get it. I forget it. So that, I believe, stored in our own DNA in terms of our mindset that if me have to thief it, borrow it, or whatever, I'm going to do it. Because materialism became such a major thing in the decades of the 90s. We shift over into the 2000s. What happened was globalization became a major thing where the person was no longer at the center. It was just making the greatest profit and don't taking into consideration what happened. So unions went down.
That's in the 90s you're talking. We're talking about the 90s?
90s.
Yeah.
Over in the 2000s.
Yes. No, I'm looking at it and I'm saying a child, someone who was maybe 10 years old or so in the 90s and watched parents lose their business, saw the banks collapse and recognized that the banks themselves played a role in their own demise, then watch the banks get a rescue while there's no rescue for your parents or for yourself, depending on your age. It can create a mindset where you can become very predatory towards financial institutions, very uncaring about the plight of even the depositors in a bank or in a financial institution, because no one cared about you when your parents or when you were. There is something that has created the foundation for this, I'm calling it preponderance of financial crimes, of this mindset that I must take it by
see violence. It happening scamming. You see the whole thing is scamming. Yeah, scamming because
scamming is really just conning people out of their money. No matter what form you take it, and it all points to just wanting to have money by whatever means necessary.
Yeah, but that's what driving it. So materialism.
The point where you said the time of self-reliance, you wanted to produce for yourself, create for yourself. And that's a beautiful thing. But when you pursue that path and it didn't give you the desired result because other forces were not in alignment with the survival of that.
Alignment of the people and the individual case. So lick it out, look to us, the state, and we'll provide it.
Right. There you go. Then now you wonder why people start to hate the state and to see the state as the cause.
The biggest enemy.
Yeah, they must provide the solution, and whatever solution they provide is not good enough because the state set itself up as the source of all good things.
Remember,
and it disappoints.
The commanding heights of the economy.
Yes. And then that is a disappointing experience. So now you wonder why we hate the state and why the police.
Yeah, but that was the seed of that, because remember the gentleman who was in plot and him say, okay, I'm going to get education, but I recognize that education is going to lift my children. So if my children must be better than me. Remember that. So even, and people speak about it, your family did, we call it subsistence farming, but somehow they were able to generate enough that their child could go to school. They saw education as important, and these people move forward.
And we've got some interesting comments on the chat, which tells me that there is a deep hatred for banks because of their rapacious, predatory behavior. Earl says, some banks in Jamaica don't change foreign money unless you have an account at the bank. So stupid when you don't live there, in visit, and that's the. But I can tell you one bank that will change it, FGB, First Global will change it. And then him said, them in the bank, yet them in the bank are thief out people's money.
Yeah.
The banks have, between the people in the bank, they don't even understand that the people in the bank are also the bank. But the people in the bank also hate the bank. Then Conrad says he learned that the owner of SSL is a former executive of Eagle Commercial Bank, but I think he means the founder. Yeah, because it was Paul Chen Young. It was Paul Chen Young name. It was eponymously named at its birth.
Okay.
It carried his name. He died now.
He did?
Yeah, someone mentioned it. Yeah, somehow I missed it. Yeah. But yes, and it's been, yes, Conrad, it's a bank that had some serious pedigree. And Earl said, the bank thief my money and said, dormant.
But you don't catch this, I want to know.
What?
Them said that them removed the pictures of the directors of SLL from the web page 22 minutes ago. That just broke a while ago.
Yes. Yesterday, night before, when I was looking for the directors, I told you the whole site was filled with all these stories, these urgent notices about the FSC's position in their business. What they have are the
up to January 13th. Or it does not reflect to the board that would have been taken before that day. So everything gone.
All right. Can we just observe a moment of silence? We'll go into it for the Commissioner Lucius Thomas, who died only early 70s. So we're going to do the moment of silence in the break. All right, welcome back.
Wow.
We were honoring the life
Lucius.
of Lucius Thomas, whom you described. You knew him. Yeah. Well, say your piece.
He's a good
Man has
commissioner.
passed
He's a
away.
commissioner.
Last of the good ones, or
He-
there were other good ones after him.
Not for sure. A good
I'm trying
commissioner
to
in the
remember.
terms of saying, I'm just talking to, as I remember for many years, most of his life, one of my elder siblings served in the force. And he pointed to the fact that a good commissioner, in terms of splitting justice, as they call it, between ensuring that the people in the force were taken care of, but ensuring that the public rights were not trampled upon. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, when people pass on, it is civilized.
Yeah,
It is a mark of our humanity that we can, honor them in that sense, and I think also family members do appreciate knowing that the passing of their loved ones who contributed on the public stage is noticed.
Yeah.
So yes.
No, but
I see where you're going. But come on, Percy, bring it in.
All right. So we went to the SSL site to look
Stocks
at who
and
the
Securities
directors,
Limited.
right? And remember, FSC has highlighted that from 2013, they have been under the microscope. Good? Under the microscope, but in 2021, the former chief executive officer of SSL was Zachary Harder, and this is in the news.
This is from the June.
June 12. He steps down from Stocks and Securities Limited because in the release that is in Loop News, it says who for the last 2 years has been performing dual duty as Chief Executive Officer of Stocks and Securities Limited, Jamaica's second oldest brokerage, as well as Executive Chairman of Delta Capital Partners Limited. A private equity has decided that the time is right for him to concentrate his effort exclusively on Delta. So now he resigned his position in June 2022 and says, okay, I'm going over to Delta to do what I'm doing. But the backdrop is that he was given the award for 2021 as the top executive.
Leading, yeah. No, we're not extrapolating from that he stole the money and set up his own
No,
firm.
we're not saying that.
But we are certainly noting the departure, high-performing executive leaves. Even if, for those who watch, who play the market, and I don't, certainly not anymore. There was a time when I wanted to develop a portfolio of my own. Many events, some of them not my fault, have led to an abandonment of that thinking at this time. But when I sought to educate myself on how to make my stock picks, one of the things that you watch for news affecting the industries or the businesses whose stocks you favor. When you see high-flying executives leaving a company, you note the timing of their departure. You note who replaced them, because you are making predictions. You're studying trends and making predictions about what the future viability of that company is. You study what kind of investments they make. Do they have people on board who are skilled at selecting good opportunities for investment? When I see a recently awarded high-flying man leaving the firm, I'm considering, did he want more and they refused to give him? Because sometimes you're entitled, based on your performance, to better rewards and nobody's giving it to you, and you get disappointed and you leave. You have to consider, why did he leave? So like yesterday now, when I hear Fortis calling and saying he had certain information from September If it reached the street by September, you know that in June, everybody inside there knew. Mind you, we are now understanding that the state of the nation was not a secret because the regulator itself was seeing problems. So
and
Mr. Harding,
highlighting.
as CEO, no doubt saw the inside of the eyelids and realized that it was best to leave.
Yeah,
But there's also the very practical matter of backtracking and reconstructing certain things so you can be assured of the integrity of other connected parties. You know, in Law and Order, this is now the show. Yeah,
that's how they
that's the
backtrack.
show, right?
Or if you're
No, in the
watching,
show, if you see an offense committed against a family member, anybody's family member, if it's a wife, then start look at the husband. If it's a husband, then look at the wife. Whatever the situation is, the first thing they do is study what's going on in the family because it's always somebody connected. Yeah, always. Even if it is what looks like a stranger who did it, you begin to narrow down points of connection.
True.
To exclude the persons who I don't know to exclude, connected persons. I see that you have good morning, Wesley. I just get a blessings and I have a beautiful morning from looks like a new name, a new listener, but I recognize the surname. So it's a connected party. Before we go any further, Percy, please allow me. I gotta give a shout out to the members of my home cell group who are fasting for 40 days. They're only at day 4.
And they must feel it already.
And I say add a 0 and they're at the end. Victory on the other side. Just be encouraged. In fact, all the members of the Hallelujah Ministers International family who are joining Pastor Lukau in the 40 days fast. It started on the 16th of February. The fast ends on the January. It ends on the 24th of February or the 23rd. Anyway, it's 40 days. Started on the 16th of January. Goes into late February.
6 to 6 every day? What kind of fast?
Yeah, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's like yours. You're about to finish 21 days.
No, man. We finish on the 26th
of January?
Yeah.
Right.
We started on the 9th.
So to all those who have decided to sacrifice meal times and to go into prayer and meditation, I know you are doing it not just for yourself, but for the health and well-being of this nation. I encourage you, keep going. Do not let the devil move all kind of fried chicken and jerk chicken. And last night I went somewhere. It's a place that I've never smelled food, and I smelled jerk chicken.
Yeah, that's what happens to you. And remember, as people fast, when you fast, it's so important. Beyond going without food, and you can be on different types of fast. There's the Daniel fast, which is one that he fasted using vegetables. There's a complete fast where people only use liquids. And there's like, when I do a 7-day absolute fast, I only drink water. I remember Wayne was asking me about it if I'm fasting. So that's important. But it's very important. Doing without food is not it, because you're humbling yourself, but you're spending time in prayer and the word. Because what I've discovered when you go on a fast, it seems that after you have dealt with the initial stages, what happens afterward, your sense of revelation and inspiration is heightened in terms of what God is revealing to you about things that he's saying to you. A long time he put him finger on it. It's a long time I'm dealing with telling him to deal with that. Now, because you have humbled yourself, it releases spiritual power. And I've known of national fasts that have shifted things in the physical realm. Because remember,
in this nation?
Yes, man.
Give me one of those things, because that's how I want us to wrap up. I
remember people somehow, I've never spoken to it, but like in the period of the 70s, 70s, leading into the 80 election.
That's a long time ago. Yeah, nobody else remembers that. Hey, Kisha. I'm just greeting Miss Kisha. She's using her father's tag. Stay encouraged, my dear. It's great that you're listening to us this morning.
You know?
Yeah, we're going to wrap up by terrorizing Pastor.
No, but this is serious. No.
You really want to tell that story? All right, we treat it like a Bible story.
No, it's not a Bible story. It's the power of
It's so
fasting
long
and prayer.
ago.
No, but it happened to me even in terms
What
of...
happened to you in this? Have you had any revelation?
No, but what happened to us?
Tell me what happened to you in this season of fast.
No, but
have you had any revelation?
In terms of movements for the future.
Yeah.
And breakthroughs. But I want to...
But they're not to be disclosed now?
It can't
You
be
want to give
disclosed.
a history?
Not giving a history. I'm going to give you a history in personal.
Okay.
For us,
right.
as a couple,
I'll pull it
with the
off
birth
him.
of our daughter. I
It
told
was
you about,
after you fasted?
yeah, we went into a period of prayer and fasting.
And got a child.
And got a child because my
Percy,
wife...
did you do biology? Well, that's a high point. I think that's a great point at which we can wrap up this morning.
I did biology. But
I'm going to have to talk to Pastor Personal off air. You don't want to hear this. Lowell is going to do the birds and the bees.
No, but
with Percy.
It's a good way. No, because...
I'm messing with you, my
know
friend.
you're mess, but I shared with you what happened when the doctor had indicated that my wife needed to...
All right, nobody tell too much.
Did the operation, and we prayed, and when she went back, he said, what happened? Because it brought about healing for her and for myself personally.
I hope Michelle not listen this morning.
No,
but remove this one from the internet.
But interestingly, yesterday I was in office, and
first you wrap up the show. Wrap up the show. You know?
Me know, and somebody told me this thing.
The listeners must hear this one.
A couple.
Okay.
I went to a financial institution, which says, hello, you want something, and they come to report us to people. But it's not our fault. It's taken off our account. If the bank remits it late, it's not our fault, and they racked up because of that delay. Arrears,
right.
And then the bank, not the bank, the financial institution decided that they were making a demand. And gone and said, we don't decide on it. And they said, no.
In the name of Jesus,
We're
I am
not
fasting.
They started a fast, and then one another thing they did, they sold. And then the following day, this happened the weekend, Monday, Tuesday. The person called them and said, no, man.
We've had a change.
We have had a change in heart. All you have to do is pay $2,000 more, and you're good. And all of what we have said before.
Brilliant testimony.
Change.
All right, so listen. Invest your time in prayer and meditation. It is scriptural.
Yeah.
When you fast and you put yourself in the right position,
You get some revelation.
God responds.
You have babies too.
All right. Listen, thank you, those who listen to us on air and online. We bless you for your participation in the show. I miss talking to you guys, though. I confess that. We've had a couple of weeks of doing Thursdays in studio. So I think we're going to mix it up a bit so we can have the fun of your input. And yeah, all right. The producer is promising me that we can take some calls here. Well, we'll test that out in the coming week. Have a great weekend, everyone. You know that Thursday is our Friday. So much so that Percy showed me something that said brunch and said it's for tomorrow, Saturday. I'm like, what tomorrow is not Saturday? It's about today is our Friday.
Yes, sir.
I bless him for including me in that brunch. It's our Saturday brunch. Have a great weekend, everyone. If you're in the Ocherous area, check out the Herb Curb Ganja Conference, which is taking place at Bonham Springs. I'd wanted to pass through because, on another note, I think that plant has some contribution to make to our GDP in the near future.
It don't make it before. It don't make it when
now
it was
now it's going to be announced and glorified in Parliament
it's gonna be,
for its contribution to the GDP.
It was there all the time.
Yeah, so if you have a chance, you can check it out and have a blessed day.